Welcome back to After Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 268, Covington versus Usman 2, and Shaq, it's going down this Saturday night in Madison Square Garden, New York. You got a rematch 2 years in the making for the title, Usman versus Covington. You know what's interesting, Shaq, is that oftentimes when you got people at the top, I mean, the landscape of the sport changes so quick. I mean, you got someone at the top 2 years later, you expect it to change. Well, 2 years later, these two guys are still at the top of the mountain, and that fight was worthy of a rematch, and now they're going to run it back, and should be an amazing fight, Shaq.
Yeah, 100%. I actually just watched that fight last night, man. I mean, that was a battle. That was two, big dogs in there going toe to toe. No takedowns, no clinching. It was just straight hands, kicks. And Usman showed that he is the greatest 170er of all time, and he's looking to prove that even further. And we know Covington, whatever they say about him, and he does say a lot of, some questionable things. But hey, the kid is a very, very tough boy. He's very well rounded. Don't sleep on his striking. I mean, people think he, remember back in the day when they used to say Bisping had pillow fist and things like that. I see some people saying Covington has pillow fist, but trust me, man, this guy can keep you honest with the striking, and he's as well-rounded as it gets, man. Only, 2 losses, and I'm excited for this rematch. I think this is Usman's, this is his rival right here.
100%. And in addition to this, we got another rematch on the card because we got Rose Namajunas running it back with Weili Zhang. And I mean, look, man, Rose Namajunas, she has a knack for finishing fights in the first round for the title. I mean, you remember when she knocked out Joanna in the first round. You remember when she knocked out Weili with that head kick. And interestingly enough, there's been a lot of excuses coming out of the Weili camp. The crowd got too involved. This and that, the pressure, everybody was mean. But you know what? She went to the right place. She didn't do this camp in China. She did this camp at Fight Ready. And let me tell you what, the guys at Fight Ready get you right, man. And, for example, we're going to talk about Davis and Figueiredo rematching Brandon Moreno. At first, I didn't like that rematch, but now I'm kind of like he's living with Henry Cejudo. He's not going to the Brazilian barbecue, so he might actually be looking kind of good.
It looks like he's close to weight already.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when the time comes. Now I'm kind of in for that trilogy, but back to this, man. I mean, I'm very curious to see what happens if this fight gets extended, man, because historically speaking, I want to see if Rose, can bite down on that mouthpiece, get tough in there, if this fight hits the championship round, Shaq.
Yeah, 100%. Weili Zhang had one of the best fights ever against Joanna. Took a lot of damage in that fight. I mean, both girls had to go to the hospital. And then she comes back and things went the way they did. The crowd, look, I think the fans majority for the most part contributed in turning what Namajunas said, that little quote that she said about the whole communist thing and whatnot. But I feel like it really wasn't that big a deal when you actually listen to the context of how she was saying it. And the fans turned that into a whole big ordeal, got in Weili's head. So I think she can thank her fans for that. Y'all are mad that the Americans cheered for the American? Whoa, the Americans actually cheered for the American for once. Yeah, so I didn't see nothing wrong with it. It's a fight. I mean, this is the fight business. Her feelings get hurt. I mean, you got to be ready for that. So I'm interested to see the rematch. Y'all know how much I love Fight Ready. I mean, I got nothing but respect for Eddie Cha and Coach Santino and Henry, the top 3 GOAT in my opinion. So Captain Eric Albertine is in her camp too. So I mean, she's got the all-star team of coaches, and let's see if it really is Weili 2.0.
And also the featured bout between Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. This is another one long time in the making, Shaq. I mean, I remember when both these guys were outside the UFC. Chandler was the Bellator champ. Gaethje was the World Series of Fighting champ. And we would always talk about, man, what would happen if these two fought? Which guy is truly the number 1 lightweight outside the UFC? Well, now they're meeting in the UFC at Madison Square Garden. 3 rounds. I mean, these guys are used to fighting 5 rounds, but now it's 3 rounds. And I have a feeling both guys are going to go balls to the wall, and they're going to stand and bang until one man falls.
Yeah, I definitely have a feeling somebody's going to be unconscious. I mean, these two, there's no need for trash talk. I mean, we already know what both of these guys can do. Justin Gaethje, how many knockouts does he have? I mean, a bunch. Chandler is, in my opinion, one of the most explosive early round guys, like in that first round. I mean, dude can do flips, do backflips. I mean, he's super athletic, man. A lot of power. And I'm glad that he's in the UFC, man. for so long with both of these guys, but Gaethje's been here for a while, but Chandler more so. I mean, we've been wanting to see how he stacked up, came in, knocked out Dan Hooker inside the couple minutes, and then had a great performance against Oliveira. It's unfortunate how quick things fell apart there for him after that 10-8 first round, but I think that was more due to a mindset thing. He just you can't. Look, this is the UFC title fight, not the Bellator title fight against Brent Primus. This is Charles Oliveira and the whole quitter thing. I think that's a thing of the past with Charles. I think that Chandler bought too much into that, and I know he's looking to redeem himself. And I mean, he's got the power to close the show. And Gaethje, I mean, I know I've never missed a Justin Gaethje fight, so I'll be tuning in.
Absolutely. So we're going to break down the whole card start to finish. First up, got to give a huge shout out to our Atlanta Braves for winning that world championship, man. Last time they did it was 1995. So this is huge for our city, man.
I was just a young baby at the time.
Our boy Jamar the Rockstar Whitehead wasn't even born the last time the Braves won a World Series. So, it's pretty amazing. And man, it wasn't easy either. They gritted through. They fought for that title, man. So it's pretty amazing, and it's a huge deal. And look forward to being at that parade Friday.
Man, I wish. I'm still debating if I should skip work to go to this parade. And when I hear, man, I heard it's traveling like everywhere, like all through. I heard it's like a long parade, but I think, yeah, man, the Braves, I mean, I feel like they got a weight off the state, not just the city, but the state's back. I mean, the state ain't won anything in since 1995, man. I mean, I think everyone's been still heartbroken from that Falcons 28-3. And I mean, it just felt good to finally win something for the state. And I know Atlanta is just a small city, but I think the Braves represent everybody in the whole state of Georgia, even outside of Atlanta. And I don't think this is our gonna be our first one. I think we're about to. I mean, we won that World Series without Acuna, without Mike Soroka. I mean, we had a bevy of things go wrong this year, and they still found a way to win.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, I mean, we beat the best teams in baseball, the Dodgers, the Astros. So now we got to re-sign some of these guys and hopefully come back for a title defense next year. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So again, we're going to break down the whole card start to finish. But first up, got to give a huge shout out to our newest sponsor, BudKrush. So you guys see we got the slick BudKrush gear on. BudKrush is a cannabis clothing brand. They believe that Mary Jane has always been high fashion, and their line is dedicated to her. Their first crush was Mary Jane, and they've been in love ever since. All their designs are under her influence. Keep smoking, Mary Jane lovers. Use code BATTLE and get free shipping for a limited time. And Shaq, you already know firsthand, this shit is a head turner, man. I mean, anywhere you go, you're wearing the BudKrush gear. People are going to take notice, man. So I highly recommend people go to budkrush.com. That's Crush with a K. Use code BATTLE for free shipping.
100%. I mean, I'm rocking the sweater right now. Like I said last week, I believe every time I wear this stuff, I get compliments. So I'm going to keep rocking.
Absolutely. They got hoodies, shirts, sweaters like you got on, shorts. I know my boys digging those jogger shorts, man. Those things.
I got some nice shorts as well. Shout out to my boy BudKrush. Follow him on it. Twitter, Instagram as well at BudKrush. So.
Absolutely. Also got sweatpants too, and people wanted to see the back of the hoodie. So the hoodie I was wearing last week, everybody kept asking me about it. So I got it here. So the back of these hoodies. Hold on. My bad, BudKrush. Let me get this right for you. I mean, you see what I'm saying? And that's the same design on all the backs of all their hoodies, just with the associated color. So the one I was wearing last week was the Alien OG. This week I got on the Silver Haze. So hit up BudKrush and use that code BATTLE for free shipping. Now, Shaq, let's break down this whole card start to finish, because first up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Ode Osbourne. He's 9-4. He's taking on CJ Vergara, who is 9-2. And currently they got Ode Osbourne minus 180. The comeback on CJ Vergara is plus 158. So both guys impressed me big time in their Contender Series fights. I mean, they both got first round finishes. I got to give a shout out to CJ Vergara, man. I mean, that performance he had against Bruno Correa blew me away. I mean, Bruno Correa from that war he had with Mateus Nicolau, man. I mean, it was not easy for Mateus Nicolau. it was not easy for Nicolau to get Bruno Correa out of there, man. I mean, he had a battle for that, and CJ Vergara just goes out there and hits a perfectly placed knee right to the solar plexus and leaves no doubt. So, I mean, the kid's ready for his UFC opportunity. And with Ode Osbourne, man, he's going to be one of the bigger guys at flyweight, man. I mean, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage in this spot. I thought he was looking fantastic against Manel Cap until he got caught in that last fight. And I kind of also wish that the ref let him get a chance to recover, because Ode is known for, you know, working off his back. But CJ Vergara, he beat Contender Series vet Jacob Silva, you know, the kid who had the early stoppage loss to JP Bays. Then he beat Bruno Correa. So he's been doing his thing. He's on quite the win streak, and I think he's ready for this opportunity. He's also fought tough competition outside the UFC, went to a split with Jonathan Martinez. So, I mean, you got to respect what CJ Vergara has been doing. The only reason I'm kind of leaning towards Ode Osbourne is because, I mean, that UFC debut at Madison Square Garden, he's never experienced anything like this. There's going to be a lot of pressure on CJ Vergara. And Ode Osbourne's already had the big fights. He's been in there with Kelleher. He's been in there with Cap. I think it's finally his time to shine. And I think CJ Vergara is going to go on to have a very bright future. And I understand people taking a shot at him at a price like this, because the dude is an animal. The dude does come to fight. But give me the more seasoned Ode Osbourne in this spot, and I think he shines here at flyweight, because he looked great in that last fight until he got caught.
Yeah, man, this is tough because I really didn't know too much about Carlos or CJ Vergara. Is it Carlos or CJ? CJ Vergara. But man, I was impressed in that Contender Series fight. I mean, he just came out and walked the dude down and just absolutely bullied him and finished him very easily. A 12-3 guy with a lot of experience against UFC competition. So, I mean, I was like, hey, this guy definitely deserves to be in the UFC. And he comes from a good MMA state like Texas. You all, you know, the usually dudes from Texas have a very tough regional scene. Like you said, he already fought Martinez and some other guys. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Ode. I think he's got a lot of talent, definitely a little green in some areas. But he's, you know, I think he's making the right steps. He left his old gym, that gym with Montel and
real quick, tell us why he left that gym.
I mean,
what did he say?
I mean, he just couldn't do the he needs a more consistent Just to say he needs a more consistent training partners, more consistent.
Didn't he say some people only show up when they feel like it or something? I wonder who he was referring to.
But let's just say, you know, some of the people he needed to that he needed to be there couldn't always be there. Let's just say that. So now he left. He's with John Wood and Syndicate. I'm expecting some improvements. Maybe not necessarily like anything technically speaking or anything, but just his fight IQ, experience. Like you said, this is a debut in Madison Square Garden. Ode's been on a Conor McGregor card before. He his last fight was also with fans. So I think I pretty much agree with what you said. I think that this could be a tough fight. It could be lined a little bit closer. Like CJ Vergara showed a lot of good skills in that Contender Series fight. I mean, forward pressure. He might even, someone could say, be better throughout the course of 3 rounds just due to Ode's loose style. He kind of goes to his back, likes to look for the subs a lot. But he's very athletic. But that style does kind of take a lot of energy, and at the end of the day, he's only got 1 UFC win over Jerome Rivera. But you know, Jerome Rivera definitely gets ran through by everybody. But I'm gonna go with Ode as well. But I see this being a tough fight, man. It's a fight that he might have to earn, a fight he might have to dig down deep for and really grow from. So I'll take him, but I'm gonna say a close decision where both guys got to show their heart.
Next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Melsik, Baghdasaryan. He's 6-1. He's taking on Bruno Souza, who is 10-1. And currently they got fight odds isn't showing these odds. Let's see what best fight odds is talking about. I'm pretty sure it was -270 for Melsik, but let's double check. Currently, they got Melsik Baghdasaryan -300. The comeback on Bruno Souza is +250. So another debut here for Bruno Souza. And I might be way off, but I'm pretty sure he's like, yeah, he is. Yeah, I'm correct. He's a Machida protege. So he comes, trains with Lyoto Machida. Has got that karate stance. I mean, he won the LFA belt. He's got a win over Kamuela Kirk, who is currently in the UFC. So he's been doing his thing on the regional scene, and that karate style is going to be tough to deal with for a lot of guys. The only thing is that when you're talking about 2 high-level strikers, I mean, I tend to favor the Muay Thai guy, the kickboxer, over the karate guy if the guy knows how to use his Muay Thai, which this guy does. I mean, speaking of Machida, you go back to Shogun versus Machida, and Muay Thai did beat karate in that spot. And I think Saturday night, Muay Thai is going to beat karate again. And this kid, Melsik Baghdasaryan, I mean, you can talk about him more than I can. And he's very, very impressive. He'll chop you down with those kicks. He'll go to the body. He'll go upstairs. His hands are fast. He's on point. For a guy that's only 6-1, he looks very, very seasoned. And, man, I kind of wish that Charles Rosa fight happened because that would be a hell of a showcase. But instead, this is going to be a tough fight here with Bruno Souza, but it's one I see Melsik Baghdasaryan passing.
Yeah, this is a good fight because Bruno Souza definitely has like more MMA experience. Melsik is still kind of relatively green. He only has about like 2 real fights. The kid he fought on Contender Series from I know the so-called champ was cornering Sterling. So he's from Saralago. The kid that what's his kid's name that he beat on? Dennis Bazukcha. And then his fight with Colin England, I mean, he showed serious improvements. I really like this guy striking. He's a K1 guy. I mean, official K1 guy. With like over 100-something K1 matches. So this guy's got a lot of striking experience. And I mean, that left kick, left straight combo he's got, I mean, that's really the only 2 weapons he needs. I mean, that thing is straight, it's powerful, it's accurate. Colin England had to find out the hard way. But this guy, Bruno Souza, like you said, he might be, you know, Melsik's still green. I feel like the line could be playing with fire just in terms of like this guy's experience. Like you said, he's had a win over Cam Wellakirk. But at the same time, man, I just see Melsik having the ability to, with more comfortability, like being able to jump on these guys early. Like I truly think that this guy has the Contender Series fight, the shots that dude was throwing in the first round. I don't even know what's his name, Bazukcha ate those shots, bro, because like they were very accurate, on point. The left kick upstairs to the body, to the legs. I mean, the straight to the body, I mean, it was very impressive to me. He didn't get a contract that night because he kind of fatigued in the late rounds. It was a competitive fight. But I see just a higher ceiling for this guy. But this could also be another a tougher fight. But I, just because this guy, I expect him to kind of switch it up from the karate, and I see him looking to try to take Melsik down. But I feel like Melsik in that Contender Series fight showed his heart with the grappling. I mean, he was so green back then. And I mean, he was fighting those takedowns hard. I mean, he's got a willingness to fight when he's fatigued. It's not like one of these strikers that when they get tired, everything completely falls apart. Like, he knows how to fight composed. And I think he's going to get the a win here. It could be a late knockout. Yeah, I'll say like 3rd round knockout.
Now, next up in the 205-pound division, we got a matchup between Dustin Jacoby, he's 15-5, taking on Gian Allan, who is 13-6. And currently, they got Dustin Jacoby minus 400. The comeback on Gian Allan is plus 300. So I got to tell you what, Shaq, they definitely pulled the rug from right under Gian Allan because he was supposed to fight Alexa Kamor. It was a plus 125 dog there. I thought
I think everybody and their mom was looking to get on.
I thought that was a good spot for Gian Allan, but then they're like, actually, you got to fight Dustin Jacoby. Now Dustin Jacoby's a minus 400 favorite. Look, short notice for Jacoby. I mean, what if he isn't in shape? I mean, I think he will be in shape, knowing the gym he comes out of. But how you see this one going down?
Yeah, Jacoby's a guy that's always in shape. He actually already took a short notice fight against Gian Cutelaba. He filled in there and performed great, in my opinion. But first round was kind of bad, but it is Cutelaba. Cutelaba is a heavy hitter, good wrestler. And I thought Jacoby honestly fought great the last 2 rounds. There was a lot of animosity going into that one. Jan kind of
you are my bonus.
Jan told him that he was his bonus, and I think that had those emotions not been in there, I feel like Jacoby could have had a better performance. But I feel like he bounced back, got rid of Darren Stewart the way you should. I mean, first round stoppage, no questions. I like Jacoby, man. Jacoby's saying that he's guaranteed a top 15 guy, and I kind of want to believe him. They got him 22 right now. I think this guy has improved. Like, you remember his first UFC stand, his grappling was like awful, like just like garbage. Like, he couldn't get up, he couldn't stuff, it was bad. But I mean, he went and did his kickboxing thing, won a Glory tournament, like beat real dudes in Glory. And I mean, that jab he's got is money, like kind of similar to Melsik. He really only needs a few weapons like these high level strikers: the jab, a straight, the low kick. I mean, that jab he's got. Jan Kudalaba did not like that jab. Darren Stewart did not like that jab. And I know a lot of people think he lost to that what's his name, Maxine Grishin, but I mean, look, it was a close fight, but Dustin Jacoby hurt him with the jab as well. So Maxine hurt him as well with some shots as well. But I see Jacoby like John Allan. What I didn't like in his fight with Delidze, we're talking about Delidze, who is a jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, Delidze's footwork is bad. I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, you know. It's and he still dropped John Allan, and I felt like he was so timid with the takedowns. Like in the moments where he had the opportunities to really get off on the feet, he was just too hesitant, in my opinion. Like he just wasn't willing to get in there. He got dropped by Roman Delidze, a jiu-jitsu guy, and I just didn't see that willingness to get in there. We're talking about a guy that also took a L to Mamouche. Like the reason I bring this up, this dude's coming from shootbox, like the real shootbox, not you know, Charles Oliveira and them. They got a shootbox branch, but him and his team, he's coming from the real shootbox, and he wasn't throwing in the pocket, man. I'm not saying he's not capable. I definitely think he's got better capabilities, but I gotta go with Dustin Jacoby here. I just think whether it's a decision, finish, he can use the jab, be more aggressive, and just kind of. I mean, he's fought 100 John Allans in his life. Well, not 100, but he's fought many John Allans in his kickboxing days, and I see him getting this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a guy, Dustin Jacoby, he's a real striker, and he's transitioned well to MMA. I mean, he started off with MMA, and he wasn't that good, went off, did kickboxing, and I guess at the same time trained all other areas of his game, and now he's come back. He's been able to implement that style. And speaking of real kickboxers, we'll talk about Alex Pereira here in a sec. I don't know if you saw Pereira versus Jacoby, but
Pereira
holy shit.
Pereira knocked out like everybody knocked out of
I can't wait to talk about Pereira, but
Andres.
But man, Dustin Jacoby, look, he's got a good matchup here. John Allan, he's tough. He's going to come swinging. He's going to come in a bang. Might even look for some takedowns. I mean, he took down Mike Rodriguez, no problem, which everybody should take down Mike Rodriguez, no problem. But at least he executed that game plan like you're supposed to, you know? So
he's on steroids, allegedly.
You know, I don't know, tainted supplement.
Yeah, he could, but a lot of those Brazilians, they I don't know, something might be going on with their supplements.
Something in the water with those Flintstone vitamins. But I mean, I expect this to be a fun fight for a few minutes, but then I see Dustin Jacoby pulling through, whether he finishes him in the first round, whether it gets extended. I see Jacoby getting the edge with the harder shots, the cleaner shots. But I think the early going is going to be fun. I mean, John Allan will come out to fight. He comes from a gym that comes to fight. You mentioned it, shoot the box. Those guys aren't pushovers. It's just that once he starts getting fatigued a little bit, that's when Dustin can really pull through. So I do see Dustin coming out here and winning, you know, like the minus 400 says he should. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got Gian Villante's retirement fight. We got Gian Villante, he's 17-13, taking on Chris Barnett, who is 21-7. And currently, they got Gian Villante minus 120. The comeback on Chris Barnett is plus 100. So, interestingly enough, Shaq, Chris Barnett. Oh, actually, I'm wrong. I was going to say Chris Barnett opened the favorite. Gian Villante opened minus 150. Then the line flipped. Now it flipped again. So there's been a lot of action on this fight. And for me personally, even though Gian Villante at his best, I say at his best, I mean, he knocked out Corey Anderson once, right? And allegedly Corey Anderson.
It was a lucky shot.
Allegedly Corey Anderson thinks he's the best 205er on planet Earth. So
he'd be a 40-year-old Ryan man.
Okay. you already know the guy's delusional. There's levels to this. But I mean, look, Chris Barnett, he's short, he's stocky, he's explosive, he's knocked dudes out, but he's also been knocked out by guys with losing records. Shout out to my boy Terrence Hodges from ATL.
I met that dude.
You remember Terrence from the NFC? We called one of his fights before. Yeah, Terrence knocked this dude out.
Oh, in Muay Thai?
Yeah. So
Jacoby knocks him out.
My boy Terrence came out here and knocked out
Muhammad Usman.
Chris Barnett.
Lost to Muhammad Usman.
But look, it's just like Villante should win. It's just, can you trust Villante? Like,
wow.
I don't trust Villante, but I don't know if this other dude belongs. But it's like, does that even matter? Because it's Villante. So I don't really know, man. I'm gonna lean Villante, but it feels greasy picking him to win a fight.
Yeah, you already know how I feel about John. I mean, John, he's put on a lot of weight over the years. From 205, he actually did start at heavyweight back in Strikeforce. I don't know if y'all ever seen this fight between Villante and
Chad
my
Griggs.
boy Chad Griggs back in Strikeforce, a classic. If you ever want a fun fight to watch, his fight with Corey was also a classic fight to watch if you want to see Corey get knocked down. But yeah, this fight, look, you got two big guys in here swinging. I'm going the other side. I'm gonna go Chris Barnett. I mean, John Villante is all he's shown throughout the years is a competency to absolutely mess up in every possible way. I mean, that's not. I mean, the Maurice Green fight was one of the biggest shit shows I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I'm glad, but I think Maurice Green already got cut. I'm glad Villante's retiring. He had a good run. Some good fun fights. Was even top 15 for a second, maybe there. Yeah, so I'm gonna go Chris Barnett. I can't really give you too much analysis on that one. I mean, you got two big boys swinging. We'll see who gets the better. I'm gonna just go on the other side. I mean, you got Jake Collier in here pushing a pace on him, and this is the 265 version of Jake Collier. Like I said, Maurice Green, I mean, looked like dog shit. It was still up 2 rounds, matter of fact, just off the volume of kicks that he was throwing. That was it. And Villante just can't let his hands go, and then you're getting choked out with chokes. I was like, wow. I mean, this guy, this guy is something else. But have fun, Villante, in retirement. It was definitely one of the better characters to hit, to hit the sport. Him and Weidman in their heyday was quite the dynamic duo. So I wish him the best of luck in life, man. He's a good dude.
And next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Jordan Williams. He's 9-5. He's welcoming Ian Garry, who's 7-0 to the UFC. And currently, they got Ian Garry -400. The comeback on Jordan Williams is +300. So I got to say this, man. If this was at middleweight, then I'd actually take the dog odds on Jordan Williams. But I don't like Jordan Williams at 170, man. I mean, look, he performs drastically different at 85 than he does at 70. And, he's a guy, firstly, shout out to Jordan Williams. He's the first diabetic in the UFC. So he's fighting for a good cause, and we respect him a lot. But as a result, they said he can't cut to 170, and now he's cutting to 170 anyways. And I think it drastically affects his durability. I mean, you compare these performances. He had that dogfight with Imavov. He knocked out RoboCop Rodriguez at 85s. He had that amazing fight with Ramazan Ameev at 85s. But at 170, the Dwight Grant knockout was brutal. The Mickey Gall fight was brutal. So it's like there's a huge drop-off when he cuts those 15 pounds, and I just don't think he can take the shots as well. And it's sad because I think he could push this kid, Ian Garry, if he wasn't, drastically compromising himself from the weight cut. And look, Ian Garry, he's only 7-0, but I think he's been pretty impressive. I was kind of on the fence at first with a lot of these fights. He did beat UFC vet Rostam Akman, knocked him out. Jake Matthews didn't knock him out. But look, it was when he beat Jack Grant that I kind of took notice. I was like, okay, Jack Grant's got more than, 3 times the experience as Ian Garry. Went out there and beat his ass, man, over a 5-round duration. Got the Cage Warriors welterweight championship. This kid is a protege of McGregor. Take that for what it's worth. But I think he's a stud, and I think he should shine here. It's just, once again, back to the kind of CJ Vergara thing we were talking about, that UFC debut, Madison Square Garden. I mean, sometimes these guys don't perform as good in that debut, and they kind of need to get that under their belt, and they come back looking better, and you're paying a -400 price on him. So personally, I wouldn't lay that price, even though I do think Ian Garry is going to come out here and win. But man, I keep going back to the well with this. I really wish Jordan Williams was fighting at 85s, man. He's so much better at 85s than he is at 70. But you can't tell a grown man what to do. So he's fighting at 70, and I think he's gonna pay as a result. So give me Ian Garry.
You gonna tell Jordan Williams what to do? Yeah, look, man, it's unfortunate because I could see this being like one of these cases of you got guy with his back against the wall who had somewhat of expectations coming in. I mean, I know a lot of people thought Jordan Williams was a prospect, but one thing I wanted to say, man, about the last fight, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, he got absolutely worked by Mickey Gall, man. I truly think Mickey Gall has grown up in the UFC. I mean, from the way they were talking to him and Matt Brown. I mean, Mickey was like, bro, I'm living with Matt Brown. I'm eating Matt Brown milkshakes. I'm drinking Matt Brown milkshakes. I'm lifting weights with Matt Brown at that big gym, Muscle City, not Muscle City. That's what they call West Side Barbell.
West
Yeah.
Side.
Fucking. So yeah, like Mickey Gall has been putting in work. I know he lost to Mike Perry, but that was a good confidence booster in terms of for him. Like, hey, he was like, I didn't quit. I didn't. He stood in there for 15 minutes with Mike Perry, and I think that he took that confidence into the next fight. And I think Jordan probably underestimated him a little bit. I mean, it's very easy to underestimate Mickey Gall. I mean, I know some other guys have done it in the past, like Randy, but they were able to prevail still. But yeah, Jordan Williams, I feel like his style is pretty straightforward. He comes with the left, and I think even at 85s, he took a lot of damage. But I mean, yeah, he beat that big Brazilian guy, Robo. I call him Lil Barack.
Big Barack.
Big Barack, but Gregory Rodriguez, and had the good fight with Ramazan, like you mentioned, a lot of good experience. But I feel like his style, with the 15-pound weight. I mean, he takes some flush on shots at 85, like against Imavov and these guys, and he was able to keep going. And I feel like his style is based on his durability and his ability to keep moving forward and eventually land his left hand. So this Ian Garry guy, sometimes with these Cage Warriors things, Cage Warriors is one of the promotions you can actually vouch for. I mean, they consistently put guys in that can win at a high level. But with some of these guys, man, with these records, like the last guy he fought, Jack Grant, who was like 16-7, like 17-6, like he didn't look like a 17-6 guy to me. Like he looked like a 7-3 guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. That, hey, your local scene is your local scene. But I think this is going to be a tough fight, man. I think Jordan, when you got that back against the wall, man, it is a dude will do anything to get out of there. So I think this is going to be a good performance from him. Will he win or not? Ian Garry, from what I hear, has been putting in work at Sanford with the likes of some very good guys that are also on this card. So I'm very interested to see, but I'm going to take Ian Garry. But from a betting perspective, I do think it's a little much, just because I feel like there's going to be a fire lit under Jordan Williams this weekend.
Hopefully the weight cut doesn't diminish him, because I think he's capable of winning fights in the UFC.
I think he underestimated Mickey, man. Like, from what I remember, like, he not like that he said he was just gonna walk through him, but he was already like looking past him and thinking about other stuff, man. I mean, Mickey has that personality. You kind of gotta take him seriously, because next thing you know, he's choking you out.
Facts. We're joined by my boy Devontae the Grinder Sewell in the house.
Oh, I know. He's got a fight.
November 19th, Cage Fury on Fight Pass. And Devontae, I looked up your opponent, and let's just say I love the matchup for you, man. So y'all check out my boy, the Grinder, Devontae Sewell. He's got a nasty submission game.
Jamaica's finest. And I hope after this fight he gets a good plate of oxtails. And
Definitely. So shout out to you, Devontae. Shout out to all our fans that are out here checking us out. Do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We truly appreciate it. So before we talk about Edmen Shahbazyan versus Nassourdine Imavov, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. So in my opinion, PrizePicks is the top fantasy sports outlet on the market. And basically what separates them from the pack is that it's not you versus 1,000 other people. It's just you versus PrizePicks projection. So for example, PrizePicks, I told you all this last time. In the Trinaldo fight, they said their over-under for significant strikes landed for Trinaldo was 50. So, I mean, you take that under, because if you look at Trinaldo's career, I mean, the guy's had over 20 UFC fights. He's maybe landed over 50 significant strikes like 3 times. So you take that under, and during the World Series, we were capitalizing. We were going off on those Austin Riley's over 0.5 runs or RBIs. I mean, he'd cover that like disrespectful. He'd cover that like every single day. So you guys got to take advantage of this. Use the code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100 at prizepicks.com. So you throw in $50, they'll throw in another 50 to match. You throw in 100, they'll throw in 100. You're feeling you're feeling confident. You throw in 250, they'll throw in 100. You throw in 1,000, they'll throw in 100. So PrizePicks is the simplest fantasy game on the market. You pick 2 to 5 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. They have no sharks, no optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's just literally you versus the projection, like I said. And they allow mixed sports entries. So you feel in the projection on Gaethje, and you also want to mix it up with Mahomes or whatever the case may be. I mean, mixed sports on there. And like I said, you don't have to fill the salary with 6 different people. You can go 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, it's so much easier to use than these other ones. And they have a slick, easy to use mobile app, both on the App Store and Google Play. They got a 4.8 star rating in the App Store with rave reviews. So make sure y'all go to prizepicks.com, use that code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100. And let me know how y'all do, man, because we've been cleaning up, especially in the World Series. So check out PrizePicks and use code BATTLE. Now, next up in the 185-pound division, we got a matchup between Edmen Shahbazyan, he's 11-2, taking on Nassourdine Imavov, who is 10-3. And currently, they got Nassourdine Imavov minus 115. The comeback on Edmen Shahbazyan is minus 105. So, Shaq, I mean, this should be a hell of a fight. You know, after Edmen's last 2 fights, I kind of wanted him to get, you know, not necessarily a cakewalk, but, you know, kind of a tune-up fight, man, to get his confidence back. And Imavov ain't going to take a knee for no one. So, how you see this one going down?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight just as much as any on the card because Shahbazyan, he's coming off the 2 losses, and Imavov 2-1 UFC record, but I think he's looked good in every single fight, even in the Phil Hawes loss. Yeah, you know, this is a tough one because Shahbazyan is young, like 23, right? 4, somewhere in that range. Young kid, and man, this is either gonna go 2 ways, man. This is either, you know, he's either gonna have learned lessons from fighting 2. I mean, we're talking about Jack Hermansson. What's Jack Hermansson rank, like 6, 7, somewhere in that range? And Derek Brunson was looking the best he ever has. I mean, Brunson's been absolutely running through these guys, man.
Blonde Brunson?
Yeah, Blonde Brunson, Sanford Brunson. So yeah, he's number 5. Jack Hermansson's number 5 in the world. Like, and he's 23. And that's what I had the problem. I thought after the Brunson fight that they should have took the tune-up fight. When they took the Hermansson fight, I was like, whoa, like, you couldn't grapple with Brunson. Now you think you're going to grapple with Jack? Like, I just think, like, this could be a case of this is his step down because, firstly, Nassourdine, he can grapple, but not like Jack and Derek Brunson. I mean, that's like, I feel like in those fights, every time they tied up, every time they scrambled, it takes so much out of Edmen that when he gets back to the feet, he stops throwing. And even in the fight with Hermansson, I feel like he wasn't letting go of his typical stuff just because, you know, the takedown, the jiu-jitsu factor, man. So I'm interested to see if this fight he gets back to his old self and starts letting the bombs go, because prior to this, I mean, he's got a lot of knockouts in less than a minute. But at the same time, the other way I see this possibly going is, does Edmen have the heart to fight hard for 15 minutes? You know, I know he's good at getting the first round early stoppages, but it seems like even when he fought Darren Stewart back in the day, that like there is some quit in there. I mean, some turn away. I mean, there's been some moments that when he's tired, I mean, it seems like he's fallen apart. But granted, we'll cut him some slack. Jack Hermansson and Derek Brunson. Now, Imavov, on the other hand, I've been very impressed with this guy, even watching his local scene fights in France. And guess who he's got in New York with him cornering him? Coach Cyril Gane's going to be cornering him for this fight. I mean, they're very close teammates. And I mean, his movement and his distance is very sharp. I mean, his punches are very sharp. He definitely fights with his hands down. He's got to be careful with that. But in return, I mean, the guy's got some very good counters. So, man, this is a tough fight because I see a lot of people saying, like, trying to discredit his last win against Ian Heinisch, saying Ian Heinisch was done. And, you know, yeah, that could be a case. But what I was impressed with was how easy he made that look. I mean, that fight wasn't even competitive. Ian had some good low kicks, but other than that, I mean, Imavov made him look like, I mean, even in the Gastelum fight, you know, for early on, it was competitive, but like Imavov showed that like he's here to stay. I love his coach. What's his name? Ferdinand Lopez. You know, the guy that got Francis and Cyril Gane and all these guys. So he's getting high level coaching. France is very hot right now, except my boy Saint Denis. And this is gonna be a good fight, man. I kind of wish Imavov was the dog. That's what I'm concerned about. Like, I feel like, okay, he fought Brunson and Jack Hermansson. Like, those guys would probably take down Imavov too and do their thing. So I kind of don't want to view like, you know, one higher than the other. But at the same time, man, fights are about timing, and Imavov's confidence is through the roof right now. And Edmen's possibly could be very down. I heard he's been training at AKA, but at the same time, I'm wondering, like, I mean, Imavov, I don't think he's gonna try to wrestle you, man. I think he's gonna try to punch you in the head, and I can't wait for this fight, man, because I really want to see what's what. I kind of disagree. Not, I just wish Imavov was the dog. I feel like he's kind of proven less, if you get what I'm saying. Not talent wise, but just only 3 fights, 2-1. I personally, I think Phil Hawes is a top 15 talent in the making. I know a lot of people disagree, but it is what it is. But I'm gonna go with Nassourdine to pull it out, but I could see it going the other way if Edmen has truly learned the lessons from fighting these top 5 guys and at 23 years old. And I wouldn't be shocked if he that leveled him up, but I wouldn't be shocked if he took a bad fight here.
Man, I was blown away by Imavov's last fight with Ian Heinisch. I mean, it wasn't just the hands. I mean, he took down Ian Heinisch, and it was like on a shot reshot. Like Ian Heinisch attempted to take down on him. Imavov stuffed it, then immediately Imavov blast doubled him. And it was like, that was kind of a message that he sent that, like, dude, I'm a well-rounded individual. I'm here to stay. I'm here to swim with the sharks at 185 pounds. So I've been really impressed with him. And like you said, the Phil Hawes fight, we're going to talk about Phil Hawes here in a second because he's got a fight coming up next. But I mean, dude, we've talked about this many times. Phil Hawes gets a bad rep because when he was 4-0, he fought much more experienced guys.
4-0,
like 3-0.
Like oh my God, he lost to Luis Taylor. Like,
it's like now Phil Hawes is 11-2. He's a grown ass man now. So I mean, we'll talk about that in a sec. But with Edmen Shahbazyan, I think it's easy to write off those last 2 fights and say, oh, he fought Jack, he fought Derek. But it's like, go back to that Darren Stewart fight. Like, you have to go back to that because that kind of let us know from the jump that, I mean, I don't know if it's a hard thing. I don't know if it's a cardio thing, but either way, shit tends to fall apart. However you want to label it, shit tends to fall apart when the going gets tough. And he's definitely destructive in the early going, man. I mean, his hands are on point. He's got head kicks. I mean, he can choke guys out too. I mean, Edmen Shahbazyan is nasty for about 7 minutes, man. And you got to look out. So if Nassourdine thinks this is some kind of joke, if Nassourdine underestimated him, then Edmen's definitely live. And I think if you got Edmen, plus 130, plus 140, plus 150, then I don't think that's a bad play at all. But now where the line is, now I kind of think the value is starting to go more towards Imavov, who has maybe not been proven with the same level of competition, but at least has been proven that he's a dog, man. That this guy is down for a dog fight. This guy can lose 2 rounds, come back, win that 3rd. And I know that that's a 29-28 loss, but what I'm trying to say is that this guy will dig deep. So even if the early going is tough, if he's still conscious, he's going to try to win this fight. And I think that's the big difference. So while Edmen might be the cleaner guy in the early going, and I mean, you got to look out. You got to buckle your seatbelt in that early going because Edmen Shahbazyan is hell on wheels for those first 7.5 minutes. And maybe Edmen's made big strides. I mean, only 23 years old. He switched camps. So I hope.
He didn't. He just added things.
Oh, so he's not full-time AKA?
No.
Okay. I mean,
my boy Coach Edmen ain't never them Armenians are sticking together for life, man.
At least he's getting a little additional work, some extra curricular activities going on at AKA. So, at least that shows that he's trying to branch out a little bit and trying to take a step in the right direction. Will that level up his game? I mean, I sure as hell hope so. But on the feet, man, this should be very, very exciting while it lasts. I mean, I think that Edmen wins the first round. Probably wins the first half of the second round, but from there, if these last few fights have been any indication, Nassourdine can take over. But if we see a new Edmen Shahbazyan, who knows? Maybe he comes out here and makes a statement. But give me Nassourdine Imavov to win a gritty decision once again. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got the aforementioned Phil Hawes. He's 11-2. He's welcoming Chris Curtis, who's 26-8 to the UFC. I didn't think we'd see Chris Curtis in the UFC, but here he is, man. Currently, they got Phil Hawes minus 375. The comeback on Chris Curtis is plus 285. So, I mean, look, the value has been taken away from this line, unfortunately. I mean, you got to favor Phil Hawes here, but do you see Chris Curtis as a live dog? And he's fighting up a weight class for those that don't know.
I actually think the line is actually low, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man. I think, look, Chris Curtis, he's got a lot of good experience, a good striker with his left hand, but like, I don't even think it matters, man. I think Phil's just at a level right now where this is going to be I don't disrespect Chris because he is experienced, but I mean, if you look at Chris Curtis's career, every real name he fights, I mean, what happens. So I think, I know he can beat Kenny Johnson and Matt Dwyer and, some other guys, but anytime he fights a real, UFC Bellator level guy. Things usually go bad for him. Yeah, I just think Phil's, I mean, better everywhere. Maybe not like toe to toe boxing, but I still think he can compete in that area. Like he's got more power, and if anything goes bad, Phil's got one of the best reactionary double legs I've seen. I mean, when I say reactionary, that means when he gets rocked, that double leg is coming in. I mean, it's strong. Just ask Nassourdine, and yeah, just ask Nassourdine that, and I think that Phil Hawes has just more past the victory here. The only way I see Chris Curtis winning is by a lucky shot, and I just think that Phil Hawes. I mean, you look at this last fight against Kyle Dawkins. He ended up 30-26 breaking him up real bad. The Nassourdine win, the fight against Rob Whitaker's teammate and Jacob Malkoon. I mean, he ran through that guy in 20 seconds. Like this guy, the last 4 fights, the Contender Series fight, and every fight the competition gets higher. Now I feel like the competition is coming back down a little bit, and I expect him to finish this guy within the first round. And Phil feels like he's getting a little disrespected. He feels like, he understands that he messed up in the past and whatnot. He remembers the days that he was a meme, where he was a meme getting knocked out against Julian Marquez. Those things he definitely hasn't forgot, but he feels disrespected. He feels like he's confused on why Nasser, because he asked for the Kevin Holland fight. He asked for the Shahbazyan fight, and he said, "Why the hell I beat Nassourdine and he's getting fights in the top 15?" He feels some type of way about that, and he feels some type of way about Dawkins fighting Holland, who was a top 15 guy as well. So I think he's coming out here with a point to prove. He's like, after this, I'm not taking nothing less than top 15. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I already said, every single time we talk about a Phil Hawes fight, man, I mean, the dude was 3-0 fighting Lewis Taylor and Julian Marquez, who are 2 studs. I mean, he just wasn't ready for that level back then. And as a result, when he lost to those guys so early on in his career, everyone judged him ever since. And he's gone on this big win streak, and people are still judging him based off how he fought when he was 3-0. Man, he's 11-2 now, guys. Like he's
lose, man.
how are you judging a guy that was 3-0 now that he's 11-2? Like, stop. Like, please stop. You know what I mean? Like, give him a chance. The guy has knockout power. He's an athletic freak. He's a D1 wrestler. I mean, he's the complete package. The only, question mark is maybe his chin, but I mean, he's got great recoverability. His shot is on point. Look, Chris Curtis, he had a great knockout on Contender Series, man. That kick was absolutely insane. This guy's fought the who's who, but like you said, historically speaking, anytime he fights a UFC caliber guy, and this is not just something recent, man. This is dating back to when he fought Bilal Muhammad on the regional scene. You should have seen the kind of shit Chris Curtis was talking, and Bilal Muhammad put him in his place. I mean, it was the kind of ass whooping where there was no handshaking afterwards, man, because of how much Chris Curtis talked. Like they had some serious Chicago beef, man, and Bilal put him in his spot. But I think it's going to be the same thing here, man. I think that Phil Hawes is on a different level than Chris Curtis. I think Chris Curtis is a welterweight and not a middleweight. Only thing you got to look out for is Chris Curtis possibly knocking out Phil Hawes, but that's his only path to victory. I don't see Chris Curtis getting top control on Phil Hawes. I don't see Chris Curtis winning rounds against Phil Hawes. So it's knockout or bust for Chris Curtis. And Phil Hawes, he can win by knockout. He can win by decision. Maybe not submission. I mean, don't write it off. I mean, the guy, he's pretty badass, but I think either a decision or a knockout for Phil Hawes is the way to go here. So give me Phil Hawes for the dub. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Iaquinta. He's 14-6, taking on Bobby Green, who is 27-12. And currently, they got Bobby Green -170. The comeback on Iaquinta is +150. So, Shaq, I mean, we heard like 2 years ago that Iaquinta might have been retiring. And I mean, those last 2 fights were the kind of ass whoopings where I wouldn't blame him. He's had some good moments. I mean, remember when he upset Masvidal? It was a big upset, even though it was controversial. I cashed a ticket on his ass in that fight.
What?
But then we also remember the Mitch Clark fight, because people say Al's tough to finish. Mitch Clark finished him. But listen, you tell me your opinion on this fight, because Bobby's been more active, but this is in New York. Sometimes the judges don't understand Bobby's style. So what are the chances Bobby loses a split here?
Yeah, I don't think Bobby. I just think Bobby's head in terms of these decisions, especially the last 2, is just in like he shouldn't even be thinking about that because he lost, man. I thought he lost to Moises straight up. I thought he lost to Moises straight up, and Moises is a young, improving guy. I mean, young Moises is top 15 in paying his dues. Like, those guys had youth on Bobby. His last fight, another similar situation, Fiziev. I mean, the type of bombs that kid's throwing is like vicious. I'm excited for his fight with Brad Riddell coming up soon. But yeah, I just think Bobby fought two guys that were just younger, better than him slightly, and you know, Bobby's kind of like the a gatekeeper for these you know, guys that are looking away that make their way in the top 15. If you can beat Bobby Green, you know what that means. It means you're a stamp guy now. So I like Kenta. Look, I like Kenta. Good hands, kind of flat-footed, good jiu-jitsu, comes from a good camp, hasn't been out for quite some time, definitely was contemplating the retirement thing. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he's a part-time fighter and you know all that stuff, but it is the truth. I expect him to come here fully motivated. This is in New York. He's got pride about himself. But man, all this time off, it's either going to go two ways. He either healed up, took some time off, but like on a real note, man, like let's just be honest here. Like the dude, even prior to the dude's very inactive. Like he fought Diego Sanchez, then Cerrone. It was Kevin Lee. Yeah, he beat Kevin Lee in between there. I mean, Kevin Lee's out of the UFC, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Kevin Lee hasn't been the same since the Ferguson incident went down. And you know, Cerrone, Hooker, I mean, these were bad. Where the Cerrone one, he got left in a pool of blood. Like literally, like watch the end of the fight. Like you got Al kneeling down in a pool of blood, and then this next fight against Dan Hooker, you know, we don't even need to talk about that. Even lost a grappling bout to Mike. I'm just kidding, but
you're not kidding. He did.
Lost the grappling bout to Mike Perry. I don't know if Al is still in this. Like maybe if this was a few years ago and you get this price, yeah, I'd probably be on Al. Maybe he could outwork him. You know, weasel a decision. Bobby's been I can't even say Bobby's been weasel. Like I just think he lost. Like the Trinado, he thinks is a robbery. Like Jakar, bro, you just lost, man. It was a good fight. You lost to a good guy. I think if he twists that narrative around, maybe he could even have better performances. But I see Bobby touching Al up, man. I just think Al has hit a wall in his development. We know what he's got good he's got good boxing 100%. Like dude can definitely set up some good MMA boxing combos. But what is Bobby Green known for? MMA boxing. I think he can, you know, compete with him in that ring and get the better of it. I don't see Iaquinta getting the better of him in grappling per se. I think, you know, Bobby Green's activity is what's gonna actually win him this decision here. But I actually think he's gonna put damage on Iaquinta. Like I feel like Iaquinta's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, as where Bobby's still two feet in, still looking to represent himself, you know, the best way he possibly can. I know Bobby still got kids to feed and baby mom and baby mamas to pay, so I know he still wants to fight. I think Bobby, you know, when he's a favorite like this, I think it's a good sign. I know he's a favorite against Moises, like minus 300, but I disagreed with that big time. Like Moises has been putting in work. So I think Bobby Green gets back on track here, and I think he touches up Al in 2 of these 3 rounds. But when I say this, look, there is a chance that this is one of these fights at the end where you're like, judges, please don't mess this up, man. Like, so at the same time, you got to be worried about that. Has New York had any like memorable shit decisions? Can't think of any. Like
they just haven't had an event in a while, so I don't remember. But
I don't think they've like had any like where like Texas or something like
that ain't like Texas.
Yeah,
that's for
like,
sure.
You know, I think the judges will be fine. I think Bobby gets this done by decision.
I mean, dude, there was a time when you could really rely on Al Iaquinta to come out here and cash these bets, man. I mean, I remember in 2015, back-to-back winners against Joe Lozon and Jorge Masvidal. I mean, the guy was cashing tickets. It's just that he's been kind of inactive, and that's what you got to look out for. Like you were mentioning, you're questioning, is it 1 foot out the door? I mean, is he truly committed to this? Because Al is a talented guy. Like you said, good hands, decent jiu-jitsu, comes out of a good camp, has great training partners. So, I mean, he's training with champions, Chris Weidman, Matt Serra, Sterling.
We'll just say Marab,
future champions. I mean, look, he's got good people around him, man. So I think he's a very capable fighter. It's just about, does he still want this? Those last 2 fights were pretty brutal. Bobby Green, on the other hand, one thing about Bobby Green is he tends to double up his opponents on output. It's just that, sometimes the opponents are landing the harder shots like Fiziev and Thiago Moises. But man, if you don't quite show up against Bobby Green, he's going to put on an output clinic against you. My only concern is, like we were mentioning, the fight being a little bit too close. It being in New York, the judges give him the split decision to Al, the line being, plus 150 Al in a close split decision type fight. If it is that close fight, then the value's on Al. But if Bobby comes out here and just keeps the strike count, decent by a wide margin, and it's just upping him, for every 1 shot that Al lands, Bobby lands 3, then I do think that Bobby can make it a little bit more clear and win that unanimous decision. So give me Bobby Green via decision. But
this fight's been in the making for a while. You remember that interview Ariel did? It was like years ago, man. Like, I think Bobby was ranked high. Both of them were ranked high, and they had Bobby and Al. Just type in Ariel and Al Iaquinta Bobby Green on YouTube. Y'all will see it.
Yeah, I don't think they like each other.
No, like, this is beef from like years ago, back when they were like at the top of their game and stuff. But like, I was trying to say Bobby's an idiot, and
of course,
a wannabe street guy, things like that. And Bobby was like, what? Like, had like his whole team behind him in the interview, like talking shit. Just type it in.
I will. So yeah, the pick is Bobby Green via decision, but it has the potential to be close. Now, topping off the prelims, we got a matchup between Alex Pereira. He's only 3-1 in MMA, but don't let that fool you. He's taking on Andreas Michailidis, who is 13-4. And currently, they got Alex Pereira minus 260. The comeback on Andreas Michailidis is plus 210. So for those that don't know, Alex Pereira, when we talk about glory strikers, when we talk about real kickboxers, this guy is a real kickboxer. I mean, everybody knows he knocked out Adesanya, but he didn't just knock out Adesanya. He beat him another time, too, via decision. This guy brutally knocked out Dustin Jacoby. This guy's got quite the resume on him. Beat Simon Marcus. I mean, he's beat all the real kickboxers. It's just that obviously this is a different sport. This is not kickboxing. This is MMA. So there's questions about, how's his takedown defense? How's his ground game? Well, his debut in 2015, he did get choked out, but 2015 was over a half decade ago. So that's a long ass time to be able to patch up that hole in your game. And he trains with Glover Teixeira, with Kyle Magalhaes. So at least we know he's with the right people. And one thing about Michailidis is he goes hard in the early going, man. I mean, Michailidis is going to come out there. He's actually a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Shaq. He's going to come out here. I think he's going to try to take him down early, and I think he might even have success early. But historically speaking, with Michailidis, if he goes past the first round, he doesn't do as good.
He starts trying to find his way out the cage, literally.
I mean, all I got to say is, it might be a first-round knockout for Alex Pereira, but if Michailidis happens to get that top control in the first round and doesn't get Pereira out of there, this fight starts round 2, and Pereira is going to hit him with some shit that he did not see coming. That left hook is disgusting. That right hand, the kicks, his feints. I mean, he'll get you biting on those feints. You'll be so worried. You'll be like, which one of y'all hit me with that? So I think Pereira's going to hit him with some clean shit. I mean, this is, like I said, this is not your typical 3-1 guy. This is also not Gokhan Saki, who, was getting up there in age. This is a guy flat out in his prime. And I'd be very careful, because I know people are saying this is a different sport, and they're 100% correct. This is a different sport. We got to see how his ground game is. I mean, maybe it's complete shit, but I'm under the impression training with the right people for half a decade is going to get you right. And knowing this guy's mindset, knowing the people he's beat, I think he's going to come out here and shine. Give me Alex Pereira via vicious, brutal, stiffening KO.
Yeah, Pereira might be I know Gokhan Saki might have been more like accomplished in terms of like titles and stuff like that. But like you said, Saki was on his tail end in that sport. And when he came over, it was just too late. And I mean, he lost to Khalil. It's like not too bad. But as far as this guy is concerned, Alex Pereira, look, Andreas is aggressive early, like you said, but as we've seen, when fights progress, he hits that wall, and when he hits that wall, he doesn't know how to fight. And there's one thing when you're fighting KB Bueller, who, let's just be honest here, is harmless as
he just lost his regional fight.
Oh, I didn't even know that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, KB Bueller's got nothing to offer at this level. And Andreas couldn't even finish. I'm just kidding, but like,
Yeah,
I actually see this being easy, man. Like easy work. Look, you've been training with Glover Teixeira for this long, and they've been working very close together. I think that, I mean, you've been in the practice room with Glover on top of you. I think you should be calm when Andreas gets on top of you. So if that happens, I mean, I know my boy Glover have been like, we've been working on this. We've been working on this. Like, I see him getting back up and absolutely putting Michailidis down for the count, man. I think Michailidis probably got forced into this fight, and you know, I just don't see. He better get that submission within the first couple minutes, but I just don't see it happening. I think Pereira might honestly be one of the locks of the card, just because I'm telling you, he stands in front of Pereira for 30 seconds to a minute tops. Like that left hook will get through. I mean, I don't. People go like actually type in Jacoby versus Alex Pereira. I mean, like he's putting not just Jacoby and Adesanya out with the left hook, but like a bunch of other people too. Like the dude's left hook is better than Paul Daly's left hook, better than Ngannou. Who, I mean, in terms of just like it's just very precise, man, in my opinion. So I think he's gonna knock Andreas out within the first round. And he used to go on Instagram. He used to go by the name Adesanya's daddy, but I guess he wants to be a little more humble these days. And and that's probably the right. But like legitimately, he used to go by Adesanya's daddy on Instagram. And Adesanya was like, bro, the only reason people even know you is because of me. Like, so hey, I'm excited because if he comes out here and gets a vicious knockout, they're gonna try to rush this guy up, pretty quick, so they can try to push that storyline. So I'm hoping he gets the win, and I think he does.
So before we talk about this main card, because first up we do got Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. They actually moved it to the opener so that Trevor Whitman would have time in between, because he's also coaching Rose Namajunas and Kamaru Usman. So we'll talk about Gaethje versus Chandler. But first up, we got to give a huge shout out to our longest standing sponsor, Manscaped. So support for Half the Battle is brought to you by our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming. Their 4th generation performance package absolutely changed the grooming game, along with their refined body wash to round out your hygiene routine. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for their shower time routine by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20. Shaq, I mean, you don't want to deal with any accidents. You don't want to deal with any bullshit. You want to get the job done. You want it to be thorough, concise, and on point for whatever short notice or long-term notice opportunity comes up, because you got to be ready to go. So have you smelled Manscaped's refined body wash, fellas? The ladies love their signature scent. You and your boys will be oh so fresh and so clean. Shout out to Outcast when you start off your self-care routine with the ultimate body wash. Keep the grooming game going with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0, which I got in my hands right here. This thing is badass. You got the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, the Performance boxer briefs, and the travel bag to hold your goodies. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor and new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock and give you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Oh, and did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? This trimmer is a shower essential. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof, uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate areas. Seal the deal with Manscaped liquid formulations, their Crop Preserver ball deodorant for before leaving the house, the Crop Reviver ball toner for a mid-game ball check. And trust me when I say, fellas, your balls will thank you. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts, the Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag. So bring your comfort and boxers to another level. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. Keep your balls trimmed, fresh, and clean with Manscaped, Shaq.
100%, man. Keep that area clean at all times.
Yes, sir. Protect yourself at all times and keep it clean at all times. So
don't want ear hair either, man. You don't want no ear hair, nose hair. That ain't a good look.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure you're on top of it with Manscaped and use that code BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So Shaq, let's break down this main card, because first up, We got a banger, a long time in the making. We got Justin Gaethje. He's 22-3, taking on Michael Chandler, who is 22-6. And currently, they got Justin Gaethje minus 225. The comeback on Michael Chandler's plus 175. So, I mean, like we mentioned early on in the show, this is a fight a long time in the making. I wanted to see, Justin Gaethje back when he was the World Series of Fighting champion, take on Michael Chandler back when he was the Bellator champion. And now it's finally happening, my man. And the only thing I got to say, I mean, besides that, this is guaranteed violence, is I was kind of surprised to maybe see a plus 175 next to Chandler's name. I mean, that is kind of tempting, but he also is kind of prone to those leg kicks, and we happen to be dealing with the best leg kicker, arguably, in the sport. So, what's your breakdown here?
Man, this is tough for me because, initially this is one of these fights where I just feel like everyone's singing the same tune, and it worries me big because Gaethje, yes, I mean, we know Chandler's history historically, late rounds, he kind of really isn't built for the wars. Looks to, in the later rounds, kind of honestly looks more to the lay and pray style. But there's no denying that first round. I mean, Gaethje's been rocked. What I mean, every fight. I mean, pretty much, except Ferguson. I mean, he still got rocked in that fight
Second
too.
round.
So like, to sit here and act like Chandler can't knock this man out unconscious, I think Chandler's not getting enough credit. I'm not saying that he's gonna win this fight, but from a betting market side of things, I feel I'm more of a Gaethje fan, but I feel a little disrespected for Mike Chandler here, man. Like, damn, everyone's going against Chandler this weekend. Shit. I think Gaethje's been out for a very long time. I consider that last one very demoralizing, and especially for him, just because some of the things I've heard him say in the past. If you tap, you're a quitter. If you Gaethje's got a lot of thoughts in his head, and that's what makes him a great fighter. And personally, I kind of feel like Chandler in this spot, man, kind of doesn't. I don't want to say he has. I feel like the pressure's on Gaethje to perform here. I mean, he's got to live up to this line. He's got to, redeem himself off his loss. Chandler fought for the title his last fight, had a lot of good success that first round, a 10-8 first round, but had a bad mindset. He just look, there's 4 more rounds to go. What happens if you don't knock him out? And Charles came back. It was a little alarming how quickly that fell apart for him. It kind of just proved the notion more that Chandler isn't built for wars. He's built for, first round explosions and head-on collisions. So I see this fight pretty much like, I see the narrative. Look, if this gets extended, the leg kicks, the whole, heart thing down the stretch, Gaethje will prevail. But man, some of the things I've been hearing from Gaethje the last few weeks, man, I don't know what it is, but like, I just feel like, man, let's see if he proves it, man. He's saying, a lot of things. He's having arguments with DC with DC on Twitter and stuff like that. Seems like everybody's getting into it with DC these days. But I kind of feel like he isn't fully respecting Chandler enough. I mean, Chandler's taking this fight as if this is, a life and death situation. And the vibe I get from Gaethje is more so like, it's just Chandler, but we'll see what happens, man. I'll pick Gaethje as a pick, but from a better actually, I'm gonna take Chandler for an upset, man. I'm gonna switch my pick. Actually, I just feel like everyone's singing the same tune, like, oh, he's just gonna break. Like, you got to understand, like, he just fought for a title. Like, he's gonna go back to the gym, make some adjustments. Like, he knows he can compete at that level. And he's a very driven guy. And honestly, in my opinion, the most explosive lightweight that we have in the early goings. But I understand the whole notion that if this fight hits the late rounds, he's gonna break. I see where you're coming from. Historically speaking, when he fought Brent Primus, even in the rematch, he was getting very tired. And the Eddie Alvarez rematches and things like that. So I definitely understand that angle.
Will Brooks,
I definitely see that angle. So I see why, but if you're playing Gaethje at -2, and I think that's a bad move, man. I think Chandler, as of right now, has to be the side, just because this is when you got the lightweights, man. The lightweights, all those dudes from 1 to to 5. I mean, it's a gunfight. Anybody can knock out anybody, man. So I think I'm gonna go with Chandler in an upset.
I mean, look, I can see it, and the price being plus 175. I mean, I think this is clear dog or pass. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Chandler gets knocked out. But here's the thing with Chandler. I don't think it's a heart thing. I think it's like a durability thing mixed in with
the muscles.
The guy goes 100 miles per hour, all gas, no brakes. I mean, he doesn't know how to pace himself. And we're talking about a guy with close to 30 pro fights. Like, if he could just pace himself just a tiny bit, I think that he could have success in the later rounds. It's just that the guy doesn't know any other way besides going balls to the wall, which is what we love about him. I mean, which is why it's so exciting to watch him fight, but which is also his downfall in the fights that he tends to lose. Whether it's that Will Brooks fight, the second one, where, I mean, that was a scary knockout, man, because it was like he was so fatigued from going 100 miles per hour that he didn't even know where he was. Or even the most recent one against Oliveira, man, he goes too hard. And if he can get you out of there, it's beautiful. It's just that in the later going, that's where you got to be worried. So this is something he can make an adjustment on, though. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, this isn't Bellator anymore. This is the UFC. So maybe he realized, and I mean, he's got smart people around him. He's got Henry Hooft and that great camp. Maybe they realize, like, hey, dude, like you gotta
take some off.
Like you gotta pace yourself, buddy. Because I mean, look, Gaethje's going to come out here and he is going to chop that leg down. I mean, that's a guaranteed fact. I mean, we're talking about the guy with the best leg kicks against the guy who has been stopped with leg kicks before against Brent Primus the first time and has also been compromised in other fights. Even the Dan Hooker fight, like Dan landed one really big calf kick, and we were like, I was thinking like, man, if you could land like 3 or 4 more of those, I'm curious to see what would happen. But, you know, he ended up getting Hooker out of there. So that was great to see on his part. So here, I mean, I just see it being a closer fight than the odds indicate. Yeah, I do kind of lean towards Gaethje, but let me see what the opener was on this real quick. I'm actually very curious. Yeah, exactly. The opener is more minus 140 Gaethje, minus 150 Gaethje. That's kind of where I line it, you know. But minus 225 Gaethje, I just kind of disagree. So I do see this at the current line, plus 175, being a dog or pass situation. I mean, a pure pick, I'll go Gaethje because I do think that his durability might be slightly better. I mean, watch him get knocked out with me saying that, right? He's been knocked out more than once, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of reason. And not only that, Shaq, back when he was undefeated, he'd get rocked like every single fight. Back in the World Series of Fighting, he'd get dropped and rocked every single fight. But the reason we love him is because he'd come back and, you know, and break these guys. So plus 175, it's Chandler or pass. I'm a lean Gaethje to get it done, but I might end up betting Chandler just because of that number. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Shane Burgos, he's 13-3, taking on Billy Quarantillo, who is 16-3. And currently they got Shane Burgos minus 200. The comeback on Billy Q is plus 170. So I said to you last fight with Shane Burgos, and no disrespect to him, I think he's an incredibly fun fighter to watch. He's very skilled too. But I said that I kind of didn't ever want to see him fight again because that last fight was very uncomfortable to watch. I didn't like how he went down. And this is not something new, man. It's something new in terms of how uncomfortable it was, but it's not something new in terms of his defense. This guy has always fought with his hands down. He's never made any adjustments. I mean, you remember the Calvin Kattar fight where he got knocked out? Well, we thought, hey, man, that must have been a wake-up call. Next fight, he's going to come out there with his hands up. Nope. Goes in there against Kurt Holloway, gets dropped in the first round. He ended up being able to capitalize on Kurt Holloway's weakness on the mat, was able to tap him out. Then he had a couple favorable matchups along the way, you know, the Makwan Amirkhanis and whatnot, the Charles Rosas. But once he stepped up in competition, I mean, Josh Emmett will capitalize on you fighting with your hands down. Edson Barboza will capitalize on you fighting with your hands down. And now, even though Billy Q is a step down compared to those guys, I mean, he's not a top 10 guy. Billy Q is a savage and Billy Q is a dog. And Billy Q, if you show him any kind of weakness, I mean, he will run with it, man. And one thing about Billy Q, I feel like he leveled up big time after that Gavin Tucker fight. I mean, that Gavin Tucker fight was such a letdown, man. And he comes out there that next fight against Gabriel Benitez. A lot of people are counting him out. And listen, with Gabriel Benitez, a lot of guys beat him, but a lot of guys have to go through adversity first. I mean, Sodiq Yusuff, it says first round knockout, but Sodiq Yusuff got dropped in the first round. Andre Fili was getting touched up until he caught him. Omar Morales, that was a back and forth war. Billy Q ran through Gabriel in a way where I've never seen anybody do Gabriel like that. And I think that was a big statement that finally, he's got 19 pro fights. Billy Q does. This is his 20th pro fight. I think it's all starting to come together. And even though, maybe from a technical standpoint, even though Burgos does fight with his hands down, you kind of give him the edge, but this becomes that dog fight, and that's where Billy Q thrives. And also, Billy Q is a plus 170 dog. He's going to fight for your money, man. I don't think that Shane Burgos has the takedowns to kind of neutralize Billy Q. I think it's going to be won and lost on the feet. The area of concern is, Billy Q, he is that tall, skinny guy, so obviously some body shots. I kind of don't want him eating those, but I just kind of got to fade Burgos fighting with his hands down consistently, not learning his lesson. I mean, as a fan, you love watching Burgos fight. He's incredible to watch, but as a betting man, I did not like what I saw that last fight. I didn't like what I saw the fight prior, and I know Billy Q is going to come to fight. So it might be a losing ticket, but plus 170 on a guy that I know fights like a dog against someone that fights with his hands down. Give me Billy Q for the upset.
Yeah, I differ on this one a little bit. I see the narrative about the last one, the delayed reaction KO, but I just think that's more attributed to the type of shots that Edson's throwing. I mean, much more technical than sharper, technical, faster, everything than what Billy Q is going to be throwing. Look, I think Billy Q's a dog, very tough guy, looked good his last fight, but at the same time, man, I don't even think I just don't even think those guys are on Shane's level, caliber. Yeah, Shane definitely. I don't think it's a cardio thing, a heart thing. Shane can stand in that pocket all day and keep throwing. I just think he's got to pick and choose his battles a little more smartly. I mean, you can't, honestly, I think it could be a case made for a draw in that Josh Emmett fight, just due to the amount of volume that he was throwing. I like Billy Q's known for his volume. It's not his technical boxing. It ain't his wrestling. It's just the amount that he's throwing. Billy Q will go and go and go. And I think Shane can definitely match that, if not even throw more. Like, Shane can go. It's just when you're talking about the heaviest hitter at 145 with the overhand rights and the switch stance left hooks like Josh Emmett. I mean, I've seen Emmett put dudes like stiff, like Ricardo Lamas, Christos Giagos, Michael Johnson. That's all I can think of right now. But I mean, Emmett's the hardest hitter at 145, in my opinion. Edson Barboza, that doesn't even need to be mentioned. We're talking about different type of weapons too. We're talking about calf kicks, body shots, spinning head kicks. I mean, the type of things he's having to worry about in these fights aren't even going to be remotely close to what Billy Q's got, in my opinion. Billy Q can. I feel like he's just a guy. It seems like a lot of his fights, honestly, are more grappling based. I mean, he's usually like a scrambler. The Gavin Tucker fight, though, I feel like he kind of got exposed in his boxing a little bit. I feel like if you can make Billy Q fight in close boxing style, I don't see him competing with Shane Burgos. I see him getting touched up. Gabriel Mowgli Benitez is a guy, a 500 fighter. I mean, exciting, but it kind of, in hindsight, it kind of makes sense. I was honestly gonna play Mowgli, but when I really thought about it, man, you can't be laying chalk on 500, like on 500 guys, man. I think Shane Burgos is somewhat considerably a caliber above that, and I think he could also have learned some lessons in those fights. Like, he's just got to pick and choose his battles more. Like, he was having success in those fights. It's just his willingness to stand and trade there. I think he can get away with that against some other guys, is what I'm trying to basically say. Like, if he takes a step down, I think he's going to get back on track here this week. And I think he actually puts it on Billy Q, man, down the stretch. I don't think Billy Q can box with him. I think his only chance is to land a shot. But even considering that, man, Burgos has a lot of heart. Like, Edson Barboza is responsible for some of the most entertaining knockouts. And the key to it, though, is Billy Q's attack is very somewhat predictable for a guy like Shane, as in like Emmett and these guys. They have the type of the firepower to change the course of a fight like that. Or Edson Barboza, you're talking leg kicks, body. I mean, everything is coming. So I'm going to go with Shane and get back on track here. I actually heard this is make or break for Shane. I heard it's the last fight on his deal. So this is a back against the wall type of spot.
Featured bout in the bantamweight division. We got the legend, the Hall of Famer, the former lightweight champion, Frankie the Answer Edgar. He's 24-9. He's taking on Marlon Vera, who's 19-7. And currently they got Marlon Vera -170. The comeback on Frankie Edgar is +150. So, man, this should be a lot of fun while it lasts. I mean, listen, Frankie Edgar is one of the reasons I'm such a hardcore fan of the sport. I mean, I remember watching his fight with Tyson Griffin and just the insane scrambles. And then you see that little guy go out there and dethrone BJ Penn. Interestingly enough, you know who was in the corner of BJ Penn? Jason Perillo is also going to be in the corner of Marlon Vera. So they got a little experience with him. Yeah, but he definitely frustrated BJ Penn, and they fought 3 times. But I'm referring to the first one in Abu Dhabi. But now Frankie's dropped 2 weight classes down to bantamweight, which a lot of people think he should have been there all along. He's fighting Marlon Vera, who has paid his dues in the division. Marlon's one of the top finishers. I think he's either got the most or second most finishes in bantamweight history. So I think it comes down to the wrestling of Frankie Edgar versus that, that killer instinct of Marlon Vera. How you see this one going down?
Man, initially I was thinking, this is a retirement party for Frankie Edgar. But look, after watching some tape, look, this is going to be a good fight. It's a good match fight. Vera, we know the type of fighter he is. He's kind of the type of guy that kind of drops the first round and likes to come back in the last 2. He did it his last fight. He, not the O'Malley fight, but the Guido Canetti fight. I mean, a bunch of his fights. He kind of, feels you out, kind of is looking for that intel in that first round, seeing how his opponent's moving. And the game that, I'm having trouble with here is just the weaselness of Frankie Edgar. I mean, look, we already weaseled a decision from me against Pedro. I mean, look, Frankie fights very professionally. He his movements are very professional. He knows how to stall. He knows how to eke out. He knows how to, especially, Marlon is definitely improving. But I still think there's a gap between him and, that other tier, a 135ers. Not saying that he can't get there. I mean, because we're gonna see this weekend. But I think Marlon Vera is gonna do the more damage, 100%. I mean, I expect Frankie's face to be covered in blood in this fight. It's just a matter of, do not let this guy stall you out against the fence. Do not let him sway these judges with these. He's very professional, and I know that seems like a very simple word, but you saw the Pedro Munoz fight, man. I mean, these judges, especially in New York, that's his territory too, man. You gotta be careful. Marlon is gonna really need to hurt Frankie Edgar here. And he's coming off that loss against Corey Sandhagen. This could be good timing. Man, I think this is gonna be a close fight. Like, truthfully, honestly, but I see Marlon actually hurting him down the stretch. But at the same time, this could be another fight like I was mentioning earlier with Iaquinta and Bobby Green, where, Frankie, he stalled him out. He held him. He clinched him and tied him up. And we're in New York, his territory. We'll see. But I'm gonna go with Vera. I just think he's trending a little higher. Look, Frankie Edgar, how old is he now? 40?
40.
I mean, he just turned 40. Like, the wheels have gotta fall off at some point. I mean, Marlon Vera losing to a 40-year-old doesn't even sound right when you really think about it. But look, he's got to have a little bit more of a sense of urgency. Like the Song fight, he got started too late, but those guys have real KO firepower. Like, I feel like this is a good matchup for him, just in terms of the sense, like, bro, this guy ain't gonna knock you out. Like, you can actually get aggressive a little earlier. All he's gonna have is no disrespect to Frankie Edgar, but I'm just saying, like, at this stage in his career, he's 40 years old. He's gonna be looking to eke out and stall out. So I think I'm gonna pick Marlon Vera for a win. I do wish the line was a little shorter, maybe like 140, 135, 150-ish. But hey, he's been looking really good as of late. I mean, the career turnaround, man, somebody said Frankie's 10-0 in New York. I think the career turnaround he's been on, man. I mean, if you've seen what he started at, I mean, Marlon, when he first started, I mean, it wasn't pretty, but man, he's got to start. He's had a bad habit of starting too late, and it's cost him with some decisions in the past, like Song and Jose Aldo. He actually won the second round. So yeah, I just think that he's got to have a sense of urgency here, and he can get the win. So I'll pick him for the win.
Yeah, I mean, look, Frankie Edgar, legend of the sport. It's just, he is 40 years old. So in terms of the retirement party thing, I don't think he's the kind of guy that'll retire on his own. I think the people around him are going to have to tell him to retire, because Frankie Edgar, he's so goddamn tough. He's always been the toughest guy. And even early on in his career, man, he would get rocked and dropped in these fights. You remember the Gray Maynard fights, and he'd come back and win those fights. So he's so admirable. It's just that some of these knockout losses have been kind of uncomfortable to watch, whether it's the Ortega one, the Chan Sung Jung Korean Zombie loss, especially the Corey Sandhagen one. Whereas like back in the day, you couldn't knock this guy out with a baseball bat. Now he is finally getting knocked out. So the durability is kind of waning on the Edgar side. And Vera, one thing about him is he can finish a fight, man. I mean, he can smell blood. He gets you hurt. He will turn up those knees, those elbows. His submission game is on point too. He's been a black belt for a while now. It's just like you were talking about. And I 100% agree with your breakdown. It's just, don't let Frankie lay on you for 10 minutes. Don't let Frankie
hug you.
Don't let Frankie, fool the judges with that, pitter patter boxing. One thing about Vera, he's got an insane chin, man. I mean, it's going to be a sad day when he finally gets knocked out. And interestingly enough, because you compare the two, that kind of used to be the case with Edgar. He used to be the guy with the insane chin. Now he's finally been knocked out. But man, Vera's 12 years younger than Frankie Edgar. We're talking about 28 versus 40. But again, Vera did get taken down that last fight against Davy Grant. Now, granted, he found a way back up. He ended up busting the guy up. I think a similar thing is going to happen here. He probably does get taken down in the early going, but eventually down the stretch, that's where he's going to start to pull away. That's where the age will start to show itself. And I think that he makes it clear enough in the second and third rounds and potentially gets a finish along the way against the legend. One thing about Vera, he's been getting better every single fight, and we haven't seen his finished product yet. Only 28 years old, still has a lot of room for improvement, and he's serious about this, man. He's not a guy that's out here partying. He's a guy that's surrounding himself with the right people. So I only expect improvements. And we've criticized his boxing in the past. Well, now he's working with Jason Perillo the last few fights. You've seen a marked improvement. I expect to see even more improvements every single fight. So much respect to the legend, the Hall of Famer. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Frankie Edgar.
See, Frankie Edgar is an actual Hall of Famer. Now, I know I've pissed some people off with my past takes about Pettis and some other guys, but Frankie is a guaranteed Hall of Famer.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he dethroned BJ Penn. He was the smallest guy in the weight class and won the belt at 55s. The guy,
Pettis ain't no Hall of Famer. Diego Sanchez ain't no Hall of Famer.
I love Frankie Edgar, man. Yeah, so
Edgar is a legend.
True legend. My
boy Frankie did things the right way, man.
He really did. But I think this is Cheeto's time. So give me Cheeto to just land the more damage, to land the big moments where he hurts Edgar, possibly get that finish. But if not, just rack up the points in the second and third round. Hopefully avoid getting held down, because that's what don't get stalled out. I mean, he's got to know that he's not a dumbass. It's just, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. So let's see what actually happens here. Co-main event of the evening. We got our first of two rematches. We got the champ, Rose Namajunas. She's 10-4, taking out Weili Zhang, who was 21-2. And currently they got Weili Zhang -125. The comeback on Rose Namajunas is +105. So interesting. Rose Namajunas knocked her out in the first round, and now she's the dog here in the rematch. I still have questions about what happens if this fight gets extended. I think that's what would favor Weili Zhang. But I mean, Rose Namajunas is hell on wheels. The first half of the fight, man, and she's so explosive. So, I mean, you see this fight going differently this time. Every fight is different,
man. I got a lot of thoughts in this fight, man, because I kind of share my thoughts on what happened really in the first fight with the whole communist comments and all that stuff. But man, this fight kind of reminds me of some past fights Rose has had, man, like the Joanna series, where she knocked Joanna out. She's in denial and she goes 5 rounds in the rematch. And I think there's also some false narratives in this fight too, man. Weili Zhang going into the last one, I think she's a great fighter, and I think that she had a great run. But to be honest, going into the last one, when I really sat down and watched, I was kind of questioning, I don't want to say the legitimacy of her title, but that fight that she had with Andrade in China, like the shit that Andrade did was just like, she just charged forward and like literally, I don't want to say gave her that, but like Andrade had a bad night, man. I'm not saying that, if they rematch, this would happen or this, but it didn't really, in my opinion, it didn't give me a full representation of Weili. Then we go into the Joanna fight where, I feel like, it was a great fight. Look, we love great fights, but she was minus 200 against, somewhat of a quote unquote washed up former past champion that, hasn't gotten her belt back in how long. And that fight was coming down to the wire. She took a lot of damage, a lot of flush on shots. And this ain't the first time she's gotten rocked. Like, even dating back to her debut fights, Tisha Torres, like there was moments in all of these fights where she did chicken dances in these fights, man. And this whole cardio thing, like Weili gets tired. Like, she was able to, push through in the Joanna fight, but Rose did too, man. Like, Rose went 5 rounds with the Joanna, and, Rose, that's her issue, is the cardio. Always has been. She's definitely, that's the way she's lost. But at the same time, like, I know she's went to Fight Ready, and not just Fight Ready, Neuroforce One. So if they change her life, they change her life. But that doesn't mean she can't lose. I've seen people lose on Neuroforce One as well too, man. So I think that there's a lot of false narratives. I don't think Weili has the cardio advantage by the margin y'all think she has. I think she gets very lactic-y down the stretch. I think her head movement slows down the stretch. I think she also gets tired, man. I just think that, they hyped her up so much with that Andrade and that Joanna performance. Like, I'm not as sure she's like, also mixed in with the fact with these thoughts in her head about the comments, she's still somewhat on that a little bit, it's just mixed in with all these thoughts like, oh, I find it hard to believe that she's better. Look, I watched the first fight. You couldn't stand with her at range. I mean, you were biting on every feint and you got knocked out. And when these people just can't admit that, and they try to say, oh, the crowd and the travel from China, or she turned the people against me, like it was actually kind of, I actually didn't like this thing she did. Her and actually your boy Benil Dariush kind of had a little back and forth, because he said that he said that was weak. Like, he said that was weak, and she kind of responded back, well, your fight with Tony, because I think it was on the same card, if I'm not mistaken. She was like, bro, your fight with Tony Ferguson put everyone to sleep, which is kind of funny, but it kind of just shows me, more of who Weili is. And I'm not saying it in a negative way, but they're kind of maybe possibly could have been an ego thing there. Maybe it's checked now, and maybe she's got Santino and these guys around her and they can fix it. But I think it's honestly a lot of ground to cover, man. I think this could be one of these typical rematches where maybe it goes 5 rounds, but maybe the same thing happens again, man. I truly think Namajunas, in terms of striking, is better than outside of Shevchenko and Nunes and Jermaine. These girls. Well, Jermaine's got like a real resume in kickboxing. Same with Shevchenko. Like, obviously you have to put those two in terms of striking, but like MMA striking, man, I honestly think Rose Namajunas is up there with anybody. She has the power, the setups to actually knock people out and make them look silly. I mean, she's done it several times. The Rose Namajunas fight, everyone was in denial about that. She came back and went 5 rounds in the rematch. Look, she struggled with her, mental things in the past, and the Jessica Andrade fight, which she got slammed, but she came back and she held up in the rematch, and I thought it was a much more improved version of Andrade. And to be honest, and I hate saying things like this, I think it was a better version of Andrade than the one Weili Zhang fought. Like, the one that Weili Zhang fought, like, I don't even know what that was. Like, I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, she literally just went in with like a 6-punch combo with her chin straight up in the air. That China crowd, man, it had everyone doing crazy shit that night. I don't know if y'all saw Elizu versus Li Jingliang that night, but it was them Chinese were going crazy that night, man. And I think that was kind of mixed in, man. So I'm actually going Rose Namajunas to keep her belt by finish. I think Weili Zhang is somewhat in denial. We'll see if she can stretch this out to the late rounds. But like I said, I'm not convinced she's going to have the success in the late rounds. What if she's already busted up to the point where this is in the early rounds, I see her getting touched up, man. I don't think, look, I'm going with Rose Namajunas to keep her belt.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If Rose is mentally there and, she's coming out here with a chip on her shoulder to prove the first fight wasn't a fluke, and she wants to really prove that she's the champion, I mean, she's one of the most dangerous fighters in the entire division. She always has been, man. It's just always kind of been a mental thing. Remember when we cashed that plus 215 on Carolina? It wasn't because Carolina was better than her. It was just because Carolina was tougher than her in the second and third rounds. So the thing with Rose Namajunas, she's going to be faster than everybody. She's got better technique. She's more explosive, and she's just dynamic. And now she's got the experience behind her, two-time world champion. So, I mean, you cannot sleep on Rose Namajunas. It's just Rose needs to be mentally there. And in her favor, she's got a very good history with rematches. She's 3-0 in rematches, and she's also undefeated at Madison Square Garden. So those kind of things are going in her favor. Now with Weili, at least she doesn't have to make the flight from China anymore, so she's not going to be jet lagged. She's done this camp in the U.S., and not only did she do this camp in the U.S., she did this camp with a great team, Fight Ready, Neuroforce One. So I expect adjustments. And some of the adjustments I expect, I mean, for her sake, hopefully she goes to the calf, starts chopping down Rose Namajunas, start to take away a little bit of the speed, and then down the stretch, if she can get this fight extended, then start to pull away. So that's how I'd kind of see the path to victory for Weili Zhang. But I agree with you. There is a lot of delusion. There's a lot of things I don't like that I'm hearing. And the most important thing when we're talking about betting is the price. Why is Rose Namajunas the underdog in this spot? I mean, so it's one of those things where if the line was flipped, then maybe I'd be more inclined to make the argument for Weili extending this fight. But at plus 105, it's just, I think it is kind of disrespectful to Rose. And I am going to pick her to defend her belt here against Weili. It's just about, if it gets extended, she's got to hold on. She's got to be tough. She's got to, hopefully that calf doesn't get too compromised. Because I'm expecting adjustments from Weili Zhang 100%. I don't think it's just going to be a 1 minute head kick knockout like the last time. I think this fight's going to go to a little bit deeper water. But Rose Namajunas has to, she's got to bring her toughness to this fight. If she does that, then I think she's got the other tools to win. So my pick will be, and still, Rose Namajunas. And everybody, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's break down this main event, my man, because we got another rematch a few years in the making. We got the champ Kamaru Usman. He's 19-1, taking on the challenger Colby Covington, who was 16-2. And currently they got Kamaru Usman minus 350. The comeback on Colby Covington is plus 260. So a lot of the narrative is the improvements Kamaru has made. And I mean, you got to mention that. I mean, look, he used to be a guy that people would say snoozeman, that his fights were boring. Now he's out here knocking everybody out. But Colby, I mean, look, 2 years at MMA Masters, I expect Colby to be very improved too. And one thing about Colby, don't let the persona fool you. He is a student of the game. And that last fight, if you just take that last fight into consideration, 2-2 going into the 5th round, and it was and it's plus 260 now for Colby. So I understand people taking that shot. It's just my kind of reasoning for kind of backing Usman here is that I just think Usman's slightly better. I think the numbers reflect that too. I don't think he's better by a huge margin. I just think he's slightly better everywhere, and that's going to help him pull away. And not only that, every fight's different. I mean, there's no guarantee this is that 5-round war like the first time. Oftentimes when you get that 5-round war, the next fight ends somewhat early. Not saying that Kamaru is going to end him early. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I expect this fight to go kind of differently. I'm just not really trying to lay minus 350 against Colby, but I'm also not trying to have any money against Usman. So personally, I kind of want to sit back and enjoy it because the first fight was such a classic and well deserving of a rematch. And both these guys are incredible fighters. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's awesome, considering how quick the landscape of a division changes, that 2 years later, these guys are still at the top of the division, still the champion Usman, still the #1 contender Covington. That just shows what kind of level these guys are. And I mean, these are the 2 best welterweights on planet Earth, bar none. So I expect another amazing fight, but give me Usman to just be slightly ahead of Covington and defend his belt.
Yeah, I think first fight was a great fight, and I think it was. I mean, look, it was a fairly even fight. Some of those first couple of rounds, I watched it last night. I couldn't even tell who was really winning. I mean, it was that close to me. And to be honest, man, I'm not gonna lie. Out of all the rematches, especially in comparison to the Rose one, I actually feel like this one. As much as I hate to say it, man, I feel like this one could be playing with fire for Usman. Not that he should have took another fight or anything. It's just, when I look at where Kamaru's at right now, he's definitely, knocking these guys out. Jorge Masvidal to knock him out. I mean, Jorge's never been knocked out besides an early stoppage versus Rodrigo Dan back in the day. But I think to actually knock him out is a big statement. The thing is, like what you were mentioning before, is this time off for Covington. I know people are using the whole who's he fought? Woodley, who he's been out here, on the sidelines. But to be honest, man, that could be honestly a smart move when you think about it, man, because you don't want to get Usman's been fighting and he's kind of fallen in love with his hands. Kind of, I don't want to say falling away from the clinch game. Look, if in this particular fight, he's not going to wrestle. He's going to try to knock him out. If these guys try to wrestle, it's just going to be stalemate, and wasting energy. So I what I'm worried about is just the spot that he's in. Like when I say that, man, I'm hearing the dude talking about fighting Canelo and all type of shit, and I'm just I'm like, Kamaru, don't start this. Don't, because you know what happens when they start talking about boxing, motherfuckers. Like, bro, Canelo will whoop your fucking ass. Like, if you don't sit down, like, I just hope that he's not, I don't think he would ever overlook Covington, but just the fact that he has a win over him, maybe he's feeling very comfortable when he should be feeling, he should be ready for a war. And I expect him to come out here and fight, but there's no secret, man, that Covington had a lot of success. And Covington's one of these guys, man, where, he's kind of went down on my list in terms of a person, but look, as a fighter, man, this guy is top notch, man. And I feel like he's one of these guys that has gotten by for so long on bad footwork and an average striking arsenal. But now, and one of the things I saw in the countdown show, you got to look at his past training situation, man, at ATT. Like that must have been like, you gotta worry about your opponent, but you also gotta worry about your teammates that are you got beef with. You got Russians approaching you in the gym. I heard Joanna's trying to fight you in the gym. Like, that whole environment, man, and you're fighting world class guys. I mean, the guy, I see why they call him Chaos. The guy, he lives in that bullshit. And the fact that he was able to perform that way, and now the fact that he's got a gym now, MMA Masters is only a few guys. Colby Baez, I saw Nate Landwehr is training there now too. He just got to win his last fight. Some other guys, Nikolai Alexakin actually trains there too. Nico Price. Things like that. So, but the team is now primarily built for Covington. Covington is the star. So now you got a team where two, coaches with experience can actually work on his striking, because the issue here, what I have with him and Usman, is Usman has more power and they can go combo for combo. But after a while, it seemed like in the first fight when Usman hit Covington, yeah, he would wobble and when Covington hit Usman, he'd wobble and stumble a little bit, but it just seemed like he could take more. As where when Usman hit him, you could see at times Covington would give obvious facial reactions, like especially when he went to the body. He couldn't hide those facial reactions, and it was just clear that Usman is stronger, more powerful, but Covington definitely had speed. He definitely had timing, and like I was saying, and that was with I don't think he was really like ever dedicated to striking like that. That's what he said. He like now he's actually like hitting pads, and like I'm interested to see the improvements, because 2 years off with these guys, man, his striking, if he's got actual power to like really sit somebody down, Covington could be a fucking problem, man, because the kid's heart is second to none. Besides, him and his heart is undeniable. His cardio is undeniable. So if he can actually like threaten Usman with power shots and actually like make him respect him, this line could be way closer, man. So I honestly think from a betting perspective, it's dog or pass, man. I just think that Usman here, like, I don't like hearing shit like that, man. I don't like hearing you talking about Canelo. I don't like hearing you talk about, all these different avenues with boxing and shit, bro. You have a UFC title fight with Colby Covington, your arch rival. Like, you need to be 100% focused. Because Covington really has nothing to lose. He loses. He's just gonna go back and, hide and make his go back on his yacht with the average porn stars and all that stuff like that. But like, I think it's so funny. At first he had some good porn stars in there, but then they just started like, it was like, bro, where are you getting these girls from? Like, At one point, he had like Kelsey Monroe and stuff. Then it went to like
Kelsey ain't cheap.
yeah, true that. And yeah, but I'm gonna go Usman as a pick, you know, but I think it's gonna be a dog fight similar to the first fight. I mean, I wouldn't I don't recommend paying -310 versus Covington. Covington is a tough boy with a lot of heart. You know, you got to take your disdain for his character out the question, because that's not gonna matter when they're in the cage, man. So I think it's a dog or pass. Like, you got +240 for a fight that was, I mean, back and forth for 4 rounds, and Usman broke through in that 5th. But to be honest, I was thinking Usman was, I mean, I still do think he's a dominant champion, but even in that Burns fight, man, like, I think he's a slow starter to a sense. Like, I think that he's very, I don't want to say very stiff, but I just think he's a slow starter. Like, early on, it seems like it takes him a round or you know, about 7 minutes to really get warmed up. You know, he definitely takes some flush head kicks, took a big overhand right from Burns. The Jorge fight, look, I love Jorge, you know, legend of the sport, but Jorge is not a championship level fighter. He's a top, you know, 5-6 guy, but you know, when they were in there, I don't think he respected his. I mean, look what Jorge was saying. He was like, Kamaru Usman's literally the softest hitter I've ever fought against. And, you know, look what happened. I think the stardom it got to Jorge. Maybe he still is, man. We'll see. But I'm going to go with Usman by a close decision.
Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night in New York, Madison Square Garden. UFC 268 should be a hell of a fight. Should be a hell of a card. Everybody do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. We truly appreciate it. We'll be back for the next card. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. Follow me at Best Fight Picks. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Shout out to all our fans. Shout out to our sponsors, BudKrush, Manscaped, PrizePicks. Check out the deals we have with them in the description. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We truly appreciate it. We'll be back next time. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.